All right, as we have our guest in line, economist extraordinaire Ralston Hyman. Ralston Hyman, and he is indeed one of the most popular commentator. He's also host of Real Business and Power 106 and a contributor to a number of other programs as he continue to do his duty for Jamaica land we love. Hi, Raleigh. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Good, good.
Yeah, man.
I hope I represented you well there just now, Raleigh.
Yeah, man. I'm good, man.
All right. All right. Good, good, good. Well, I'm sure that you'd want me to also mention that you're the North Street man,
Yeah, man.
college man, KC
Yeah,
man.
man.
All
Yeah,
right.
man.
Raleigh, first of all, maybe it's the last time that I will speak with you for the year on air. So I want to basically take time out to wish you all the best, a very merry Christmas, and hope you and your family will enjoy, in your own quiet way, however you
Yeah,
choose
man.
to deal with it. Because
Mm-hmm.
we don't worry about certain things, Raleigh.
No, man. No, man.
We're good like that. All
Yeah,
right.
man. Same to you and the team, man. Yes. Yeah, man.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Raleigh, I want to basically just delve into a couple of things. You have been watching the numbers, you have been looking at the thing globally and so on. One of the bugbear that we're seeing is what is coming out of BOJ with the
Mm-hmm.
present governor as it relates to two critical things. The foreign exchange that's been running away. I think we're seeing about 9% movement in the dollar year to date. And we're
Mm-hmm.
also seeing where the interest rate has gone up by about 300%, because it moved from
Mm-hmm.
5% to what? 1.5
Right
now?
about 2%.
2,
Right, 2 now.
2%
And
now.
they plan to do more.
And I plan to do no. So let's address them in that chronological order, Raleigh, as it relates to the foreign exchange, the impact of that on the Jamaican population, especially 65% of those of us who are earning $7,200 per week.
All right. The first thing is that under the independent central bank law,
Mm-hmm.
the governor of the Bank of Jamaica is supposed to go to the parliament to testify about the policies that he's pursuing them, why he's pursuing them, and the impact that it is having on the economy. We hear that he'll be before the Standing Finance Committee at 1 p.m. today. We believe that's a good sign.
Okay,
Long
good.
overdue, so we hope that the questions will be raised. Now,
Raleigh,
one
you're being
question,
listened to, man. They're listening to you.
well, that is what the law says he must do. Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, he has to go before the U.S. Congress on prescribed occasions to testify about his policies.
Mm-hmm.
That is why we want the central bank governor to carry out his duties and to go to the parliament to testify, because that's a part of his duties. We need explanation. So, for example, as you said before, the difference between Jamaica's inflation rate and that of the USA is about 1.9, 1.7%. US inflation rate 6.8 in November. Jamaica was 8.5% in October.
Mm-hmm.
So the
2%
question,
differential there. Mm-hmm.
yeah, the governor needs to tell us, why is it that despite that 2 percentage points differential and 800 million in intervention, the Jamaican dollar is still trading at 9% below the value of the US dollar? That's one. Now, why is that allowed when for every 1% drop in the value of the Jamaican dollar against the US dollar, it costs us 13 billion more in debt, which we could be spending building schools, building communities.
Hold that, Raleigh. I want it to sink in. You're saying that for every 1%, it costs us $13 billion
Yes.
in addition to service the debt.
Right.
Where's that $13 billion coming from?
Well, it comes from the taxes that we collect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is why, as I was saying before, when you make those kinds of payments, it is difficult to find the money to buy the 100 garbage trucks, which Mr. Chung and his team were promised at the NSWMA. It's difficult to build the schools that we want to build. It's difficult to build the communities that we want to fight crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to pay the bills that are unpaid in the health sector. It is difficult to pay the teachers who
Yes.
did the summer school. So we need a governor to explain that because the exchange rate policies are draining on the economy.
Mm-hmm.
$800 million have been used to intervene since the start of this year, and at the same time, the dollar is still down by 9%, and every 1% drop. So that's multiply 13 billion by 9, and it's the cost of that for the economy. So the governor of the Bank of Jamaica needs to explain that. He also needs to explain why is it that despite the fact that U.S.
That's
inflation
about
is
$126 billion we're talking
billion
about.
dollars precisely,
Mm-hmm.
and then the interest payments multiply 661.1 million by 9, and you see the additional interest payments that we have to make.
My God.
And tell us whether that is sustainable in an economy that is still below where it was in 2019 and unable to provide the basic social services for the members of the population. So the BOJ's activities in terms of the exchange rate is draining the country. So the governor needs to explain that. Additionally, he also needs to explain to the people of Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
why is it that U.S. inflation is 6.8%, UK inflation 4.4%, Germany 5.2%, the Eurozone itself 4.1%, and those central banks have not resorted to raising interest rates yet to deal with the supply chain bottleneck because they know that if you raise interest rates, that is not going to have the ships to get into the harbor. That is not going to take the containers off the ships. That is not going to create more truck drivers to move the goods. So they have not raised interest rates. So why is it that the BOJ is in such a hurry to raise interest rates in an environment where those rate increases will not have any impact on the inflation that we're seeing because it is international. But at the same time, it is driving up the cost to run a business, and the business people have passed that on to the consumer. 60% of who get the minimum wage of $7,200, those who are still working. Many of them have not gone back to work yet. Many people who have gone back to work are working at reduced salaries.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to explain all those things to the people of Jamaica.
Raleigh,
Why is it that,
Raleigh, we understand the explanation that we're asking for, and we may never get that explanation. You watch these things and you understand understand it very well. What would what would be the reason, in your opinion, why the governor would have gone that route, and why is it that we continue to see the movement in the Jamaican dollar at such a precipitous state?
Well, there are differences in relation to whether the governor is in fact the right governor in terms of his connection with the financial sector, in terms of his competence level at the macro central bank level. I have serious doubts about those things. So part of my thing would have been incompetence. And again, there's also the fact that he's a member of the sector that benefits more from these policies. So those are some of the considerations.
But those two things are dangerous. These things, the two things you just mentioned, are dangerous, Raleigh. First thing you're talking about the level of competence, and then you also dovetail that into a whole business of connection based on, being a part of his kind, so to speak. So he would be doing things that would be beneficial to their interests. We can't operate like that, sir.
Well, we saw Fed Governor Robert Kaplan and those people being asked to resign from the Fed because they were doing things that were conflicting to their positions as Fed governors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
would you go that far, Raleigh? Are you prepared to go that far to call for the governor's head?
Well, it would make a sense that you call for the governor's head because he has a contract that lasts for 7 years. I'm saying that prior to the decision being made, I had reservations, and those reservations were based on his competence and experience as a central banker. He has no central banking experience. And as I said before, he's also coming from the financial sector, so there could be possible conflicts. And when you look at the policies that are being pursued, and that was the next thing I was going to say, why is it that those who earn foreign exchange from the manufacturing and export sector, they sell their foreign exchange to the Bank of Jamaica, and they have to buy back that foreign exchange from people who do nothing to earn foreign exchange, namely those in the banking and the financial sector. they are the ones that benefit from the BOJ intervention funds. So when the BOJ is intervening in the foreign exchange market, they don't sell the foreign exchange directly to Mr. Pandoy and his people from separate who earn foreign exchange. They sell it to the financial sector for the financial sector to then sell back to those people. So by the time the financial sector has their spreads and their margins and all of those things, the foreign exchange becomes more expensive. And those people, in order to safeguard themselves, they have to price at least $10 above the official exchange rate in order to protect their business and to maintain their margins and to the poor consumer that ups up all of those price increases. So apart from the problem related to the global supply chain, Jamaica's inflation is also being driven by changes in the exchange rate. And we need the governor to explain those things. Perhaps he has an explanation.
Good. So while we understand, Raleigh, the whole business of the freight charges and so that has basically gone through the roof. You know, we heard that a container, for example, that would have cost about 4,000 US to strip, so now costing 15 and 20, as much as 20,000. I heard that had Mr. Pandoy here, and he shared that information with us.
Yeah,
so I'm saying that outside of that, you're saying that another big factor in there, in the inflation, is the movement with the exchange rate.
BOJ's movement to the exchange rate is a big part of the inflation. Don't when you get the JPS bill, listen to them tell you, boy, the exchange rate changed from X to Y. Yes, all of those things are part of the inflation. So the governor has a very important job in the containment or the generation of inflation. And we are saying that his policies right now are generating more inflation, and he needs to explain that to the parliament.
Good. So, Raleigh, why would a man like a Keith Duncan, the head of the PSOJ, D.K. Duncan's son, a man who would have done so much, would have spent his life out there for the average person, why would he be so, gung-ho and really seems to be supporting the governor's policy in a big way? Why?
Well, I mean, I could see three reasons. Maybe he doesn't share his father's philosophy. Notice that he's the president of the private sector organization of Jamaica. That's an organization that his father treated with a whole lot of disdain, the capitalist class. Additionally, he's also a member of the financial sector, which benefits tremendously from the policies being pursued by the governor.
What we're seeing here, Raleigh, is it impact or had it impact the whole business of what we saw out of EPAC in the later part of its tenure?
Repeat that.
What we're seeing, we have not seen the robustness of EPAC in most recent time and so on. Do you believe that remember Mr. Biles was there before, Key took over from him and so on. You believe all of that kind of conundrum, people basically too closely linked to each other, you believe that those are things that are impacted?
That's not belief. I know that's a part of the problem.
That's a part of the problem.
Remember, the chairman of EPOC is now the president of the private sector organization of Jamaica, and he's also the chief executive officer of the Jamaica Money Market Brokers Group. That's a company that benefits from the policies being pursued by the current central bank governor. So what do you expect him to? That's what he's going to do.
But Raleigh, are we not seeing, because a lot of these appointments that we're talking about, in the main, the PSOJ position would not be, but for example, the EPAC position and also the BOJ position, and so those are essentially government appointments. Are we not seeing what we could basically describe as major conflict of interest and almost amounting to cronyism here?
Well, if you look at the central bank, so the central bank, which is responsible for macro policy, is being run by a quasi-banker.
Yeah.
The Economic Program Oversight Committee is being chaired by a banker. The Economic Growth Council is being chaired by the chairman of the biggest bank, which benefits most from the government's policies, which are skewed to the financial sector. So, I mean, that is clear.
You mean the man that the Gleaner is showing that...
All the decision makers are heads of financial institutions.
You're talking about the same gentleman that had promised us the 5 in 4?
I'm talking about Mr. Michael Leachin.
Michael Leachin.
Yeah, he's the chairman of the Economic Growth Council and the chairman of the MTV Group. Yes.
Raleigh, the people of Jamaica, because that's the constituents that we're interested in. We're not basically really trumping on one political party or the other. We're basically going down the middle. All of what you have said just now, you know, what you have said, how detrimental that is for the foreseeable future for the Jamaican people, let's say for the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, you see, for what we're seeing coming. So right now, people can check for themselves. If you go on the Ministry of Finance's website, www.mof.gov.jm, you'll see that every category of revenue collection is running below budget. GCT local, GCT international, because the people are pretty much maxed out. The price increases against the background of high levels of unemployment, high levels of underemployment, and all of those things. So the people are feeling the pressure. If you look at the various communities, right now, if you go downtown and look at the situation in terms of garbage, yeah, that's a fundamental thing, solid waste management, and minister will tell you that you can't get the 100 trucks that they need. If you look at
and our good friend Audley.
If you look at what is happening in terms of the criminality, you see the people are under pressure from every angle because of the government's inability to provide the most basic social services, because the exchange rate policies and those things are draining the country.
Where are we, Raleigh, in 2021? December 2021, where are we now in terms of the size of the economy versus 5 or 6 years ago when Andrew Holness administration took over? Is the economy large or have we shrunken?
Well, the real value of the economy in 2016 March was 745 billion. Well, now, this year March, we were 690 billion. So the economy is 7.4% smaller.
Hold on, Raleigh. I was saying that I was doing the maths and I was saying about 5%. 7.4% smaller. The economy now in 2021 as against 2016. What? Explain to Jamaica and to my listeners, Raleigh, what that mean in real terms for you to have a contraction of 7.4% in your economy.
Well, my explanation, the Jamaican people have a better explanation than me. They are feeling that every day. So the poverty that they feel, the breakdown in law and order that they feel, the fear that they see in their community from criminal gunmen, the garbage pile up in their community, that is what they are feeling. The hopelessness about what is it that they are going to eat today and whether they are going to be alive tonight. That is what they are feeling. That is what it means. More poverty, more criminality, more inequality, more desperation.
The next thing, Raleigh, we understand that the whole business of the crime and so on, that's basically eating out another about $120 billion per annum out of the economy. Also, Raleigh, in terms of the in terms of the corruption that we're seeing with the state agencies and so on, are you minded that the government at the head, the top tier, the prime minister, are you mindful as to how he is dealing with it and what's your take and how he is handling it?
Well, I mean, one thing that we need to know, many people, when they talk about the budget, the government's budget, they're only focusing on central government, ministries like the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Education. There's a group that we call the Select Public Sector Entities.
Yes.
Yeah? The Petrojams, the NSWMA, NROCs, and all of those things. Those companies have a budget of $420 billion. That's 20% of the value of the economy. So the corruption in those agencies is having a negative impact on the economy as well as investor confidence. Now, the Minister of Finance in 2018 proposed the legislation that was taken back to Parliament after Mr. Bruce
Public bodies.
About the nomination or appointment of directors. And that thing lapsed for 3 years until Bruce Golding told them that it looked too bad, and now they took it back to Parliament last week, and it was approved by the lower house of Parliament, and it will soon go to the Senate. So what we're saying is that their response to the corruption has been very negligent and delayed, and they never moved with that until Mr. Golden told them that this is a dangerous
Mr.
situation.
Golden literally embarrassed them at the conference, yes?
Precisely. Yes, that this is a dangerous situation. So that is having a negative impact on the economy and investor confidence. So we have the corruption, we have the exchange rate mismanagement of the foreign exchange market at the Bank of Jamaica. We have all of those things that the tight fiscal policy being pursued at the same time, and that is having a negative impact on the average Jamaican, the consumers, and poverty and criminality in the country.
Finally, Raleigh, we heard the Prime Minister and also his Finance Minister, and also a person at the head of the PIOJ and so on basically would come and they will regurgitate the whole growth numbers that this quarter is what does that mean? What does that mean in real terms? Are we getting back to where we are, or we're still off post-COVID?
All right.
Or
so
pre-COVID,
prior to the pandemic, the quarter before we dropped by 2.4%, then there was this massive 18.4% drop. So what we're seeing is that the second quarter of this year, the economy rebounded by 14.2%. But that is still below the 18.4% below which we dropped in the second quarter of the previous year. The economy, the 6.6% growth that the Planning Institute is projected for the third quarter will still be below the 8.6%, which we dropped during the third quarter of last year. So we're still below where we were in 2019. And Moody's, the ratings agency, they are saying that if we continue to move at the current rate, it is going to take us until 2024 to get back to where we were in 2019. And remember, 2019, poor people were suffering the same way. So if we are going to wait until 2024 to get back to 2019, that means a lot more suffering for them.
Raleigh, I'm asking you as one of our most able economists and financial commentator in Jamaica, I'm asking to get into your crystal ball now. From where you sit, do you see any level of any possible downgrading from institutions such as Fitch and so on if we continue along this trajectory?
Well, they said it. They said if we continue to grow on this trajectory, then there'll be a downgrade because you won't be able to pay the debt on a sustainable basis. And I'm saying to you, if you look at the October revenue numbers, April to October, everything was running below budget. The primary surplus was running at 59 billion when it should have been at 61 billion. So if the primary surplus is running below budget, it means that they are going to be cutting back on expenditure, on capital, and all of those things to make up the primary surplus if they can't collect any more revenues, and they can't collect more revenues unless the economy is moving faster.
Indeed, Raleigh, have to go. You know the trade. All right?
Okay.
Thanks a lot for joining us today. Blessing, Raleigh. All right, so that's economist and financial commentator, host of Real Business as well in Power 106, my colleague Ralston Hyman, weighing in a very seismic way as it relates to what is happening in the Jamaican economy.